living history in its purest form. This house, built in 1894, was home to one of the men most responsible for the settlement of Ellis County. Hi, I'm Casey McAvoy, and this week we're cruising to the home of John Schlyer.
Schlyer was born on January 17, 1849 in Buffalo, New York, to German immigrants. At the ripe age of 20 years old, Schlyer came to western Kansas to work for the railroad and would have quite a number of career changes throughout his settlement.
When he first moved here, he lived in a dugout in Big Creek, him and his wife. He went back, after he moved here, he in Buffalo hunted for a while, then he was a butcher for the fort, then he went back to New York and brought his wife back here and built a stone house in Munger. And that's where his first wife died, in that house. Now she hemorrhaged to death in birth. John was a very colorful fellow, very colorful. And he must have been very, very energetic to do all the things he did. He broke the counterfeit ring here. He broke the cattle rustlers, sent all those people to prison. The post office broken in at one time. I think the safe was robbed, and he caught those guys too, got all the money back. All the time he was treasurer, that was in Trigo County. They said he had set up a whole new accounting system, and that was new to everybody and very efficient. They said there wasn't one single dollar that was out of place when he left. That's how straight and honest that guy was.
Schlyer would marry 2 more times and build a new life with his new home at the current Oak Street address. The best labor-intensive hands were provided for Schlyer in building his new home as a way of thanking him for helping settle a new world for many immigrants. The professionalism put into the house is why it still stands today.
The reason that the house is in such good shape and has survived all these years is that the foundation, which was the thing that ruined most stone houses. They crumbled because they didn't have good enough foundations to support that massive weight. And between that and water sources drying up is what eliminated most stone houses. But this one was done right, thank God. And I think I've rebuilt it and hope that it'll stand another 100 years.
It was built like a brick outhouse with 24-inch thick concrete and limestone walls.
There wasn't lumber. And when he built this house, all the corners are made out of post rock. That's the hardest limestone, and it's the best. And they knew what they were doing.
Age eventually wore down the house, and after years of neglect would seem virtually impossible to restore. To Larry Rupp, however, it was a dream house, a project he had long desired to find and make his own.
When I first opened the door, it was as much a wreck inside as it was outside, and there was absolutely nothing good inside this house except the 2 doors, the door casings, window casings downstairs, and that was it. We had to the corners of the walls, we had to take chisels and cut those out and square them up and rebuild them, and the walls looked like they had been plastered with scoop shovel. And I think I used 25 5-gallon buckets of joint cement to do the interior of this house, and that's enough to do 5 average new homes. That's how bad the walls were. Now the corners are very straight and sharp, and everything's in pristine condition. I put the best of my efforts in this house in any job I'd ever done.
What took the immigrants before him almost a year to complete would take Rupp a handful more to renovate and restore.
Oh, sweat, blood, and tears, I tell you. We wore our fingernails down the meat several times and had to stop and go do something else to come back and sand. Because there were layers and layers and layers of paint on the woodwork that all had to be sanded down, leveled, the low places built up, the high places taken down. Now it looks like new woodwork. And doors and everything. I had to go out and find rim locks, hinges, light fixtures. I had everything saved for my future house when I found this. So when I found this house, I had everything to put it together. I had all the furnishing, artwork, door hinges, light fixtures, everything for it.
Though it may not look the same as when John Schlyer himself were to walk through the front door, the house resembles his era with a hallway in his memory.
These are some of the most historic people of John Schlyer's time. If you come over here, there's a picture of John Schlyer and his 3rd wife. The small picture is the first house that he built at Munger. I think he'd be very, very surprised and happy with what I've done to revive his history in the house. Because when I found the house, there wasn't much known about John Schlyer. And over the years, I just kept digging and finding bits and pieces until we got the whole family genealogy.
Now in its finest form on the 600 block of Oak Street, the house of John Schlyer remains a sturdy landmark, a piece of history for us to remember the labor of love of our ancestors, and a history that was pieced back together as love in return.
It's exactly how I want it. And it's finished now.
That's all for Cruisin' with Casey. There's plenty more where that came from next week, right here on Street Beat. I'm Casey McAvoy, and thanks for riding along.